What do you do when you need to find something? Maybe you think really hard about where you last had it. Then you look everywhere. Up, down, inside, outside. If you still can't find it, you probably ask someone, "Mom, where's my retainer?" And most of the time, you find it. Unless it accidentally got dropped in here. But there is one thing you can always find. One thing that's always worth searching for. Wisdom. You won't find it under your bed or the bottom of your backpack. But whenever you need some answers, you can turn to God. Please help, God. I don't know what to do. You can find it written down in the pages of God's Word. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place. You can find it when you talk with wise people, like a parent or small group leader. As you grow in wisdom, it becomes easier to discover what you should do and do it. God can always help you figure it out. The more you learn to make wise choices, the more people around you will see God at work in you. That's why wisdom is an amazing way to worship God with your life. Because worship is about more than just singing loud. It's all about living loud.
Whenever I need some answers, God, I turn to you. You are my help when I need wisdom. You always see me through. To know that you're chasing after me, it makes me wanna run to where you are. God, you make this journey worth it. I give you all my heart. When I don't know what to do, you help me figure it out. God, I run to you. When I need a solution, I have no doubt that I will run to you. I run to you. I run to you. I run to you. I run to you. Wherever there is freedom, I know that's where you'll be. You make me wanna do what's right and be the best version of me. To know that you're chasing after me, it makes me wanna run to where you are. God, you make this journey worth it. I give you all my heart. When I don't know what to do, you help me figure it out. God, I run to you. When I need a solution, I When I don't know what to do, you help me figure it out. I run to you. When I need a solution, I have no doubt that I will run to you. When I don't know what to do, you help me figure it out. God, I run to you. When I need a solution, I have no doubt that I will run to you. I run to you. I run to you. I run to you. I run to you.
Hello, adventurers! It's me, Haley, or as I'm known in treasure hunting circles, Arizona Haley! Or just Haley is fine. That's also fine. Today, we're hunting for treasure. Not just any treasure, mind you. The treasure of wisdom. Wisdom is finding out what you should do and doing it. Now, you may be thinking, wisdom doesn't sound like much of a treasure, but treasure can come in all shapes and sizes. Like this piece of pottery. It doesn't look like much, but if you look closer, closest, there. If I had to guess, I'd say this artifact is probably a few thousand years old. Phoenician, probably. These markings suggest that this pot could be of Carthaginian origin. Some archaeologists had to travel a long way to find this fragment. Who can say how much this piece is worth? I'm thinking 14, 15, $7.49. It looks like our archaeologist friend didn't have to travel so far after all. You see, you can find treasure anywhere. You can find it halfway across the world. Or you can find it at Frank's Pottery Emporium. Wisdom can be like that. For some wisdom, you may have to dig really deep or travel really far. But other times, like in today's story, wisdom is closer than you think. Ooh, I wonder what era this is from, Oh, this is just my coffee. Now that's what I call treasure. I'll see you soon when I am much more caffeinated. Bye.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 41 through 52.
When God sent His very own Son, Jesus, to earth, angels shouted the good news.
Fear not, I bring you good news of great joy.
Shepherds and wise men journeyed to visit Jesus, and later, Mary and Joseph hurried to Egypt with their young son to keep him safe from King Herod. But Jesus wasn't always a baby or a young child. We don't know much about his early years, but he had to learn to walk and talk just like every other child.
Mama.
He probably learned from Joseph how to hammer nails and smooth pieces of wood for tables and wheels. We do know one very important story from the time Jesus was a boy. One of Jesus' followers, Luke, wrote it down many years later. He begins, every year Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the Passover feast. And when Jesus was 12 years old, they went up to the feast as usual.
Lentils, water skins, extra sandal straps. Jesus, run and tell your father we're packed and ready to leave.
Yes, Mother.
The trip from their home in Nazareth to Jerusalem took several days. Friends and family traveled together. Jesus likely spent the day with his cousins and friends, finding his parents at dinner time.
I brought sticks for the fire.
I'll start the stew.
We should reach Jerusalem by noon tomorrow.
We don't know what Jesus thought or felt when he saw the city of Jerusalem perched on the rocky hillside ahead. Years later, he would enter the city to the shouts of cheering crowds. But for now, Jesus was just a boy celebrating Passover with his family.
You remember where your cousins live, right?
We're staying with them again.
I can find it.
All week, families celebrated with relatives. Together, they enjoyed the Passover feast.
You, O Lord our God, have given us festival days for joy, in remembrance of the departure from Egypt. Blessed are you, O Lord our God.
When the feast was over, Mary and Joseph packed and began their trip home along the crowded roads. At the end of the day, they stopped to set up camp.
Jesus, can you start the cooking fire? Jesus?
I thought I saw him with... No, that was before we left the city.
Mary and Joseph searched through the nearby families, settling down for the evening.
Have you seen Jesus?
Not since he gave me the last potato pancake yesterday evening.
No one's seen him.
Since Jerusalem.
We left him in the city.
Frantic, Mary and Joseph hurried back to Jerusalem to search for their missing son. They immediately checked the home where they had been staying.
Very sorry, but I haven't seen him.
Mary and Joseph crisscrossed the entire city.
He loved the honey cakes from that bakery. Excuse me, have you seen a 12-year-old boy about this tall?
Dark brown robe.
Hair kind of sticks out over his ears.
Yes, like that.
Sorry, haven't seen him.
They may have checked the swimming hole or the stables, but Jesus was nowhere to be found. So Mary and Joseph paced the streets at wit's end.
He's just never gone off like this.
I don't think he's here. We've searched the whole city.
Everywhere except...
As Mary and Joseph turned the corner, high white walls rose ahead of them.
The temple! We'll check the courtyard.
Just in case.
The courtyard was filled with visitors still in the city for Passover. As they circled the open space, Mary froze.
Joseph, there!
Just ahead, they saw their son. Jesus was sitting with a group of teachers, listening and asking questions.
Teacher, isn't it always right to be kind, even if it means giving money to a beggar on the Sabbath?
The teachers nodded in agreement and amazement, but Mary and Joseph rushed forward.
Jesus!
Son, why have you treated us like this?
Grabbing her boy, Mary hugged Jesus so hard she nearly squeezed the air out of him.
Your father and I have been worried about you. We've been looking for you everywhere.
Why were you looking for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my father's house?
All I know is, no more stunts like this, okay?
Jesus returned to Nazareth with his parents, obeying everything they asked of him. As he grew wiser and stronger. He also became more and more pleasing to God and to others.
You want to know why wisdom is such a treasure? Because we have so many choices to make in our lives. Wisdom can help us know what to do and when to do it, what to say and how to say it, where to go, who to hang out with, all the choices. Wisdom is a very valuable treasure. So, where do we find wisdom? When Mary and Joseph were searching all over for Jesus, they found him in the temple asking questions and listening to wisdom from the teachers. So maybe we can search for wisdom from our church leaders. We can tell them how we're feeling and ask them questions when we're not sure of something. Or maybe we can search for wisdom from someone in our family. Your family probably knows you better than anyone, and they can help you make tough decisions in a way that no one else can. And there's another place that we can search for wisdom. Ta-da! The Bible is full of God's wisdom. Maybe you have one that looks like this. Or maybe you can find a Bible app on someone's phone, and then you should take some time to read it. Or have someone read it to you. Some people spend their lives searching for wisdom in the Bible. That's because wisdom is worth searching for. That's the one thing to remember today. Wisdom is worth searching for. Travel the world if you can, or look in your own home. But keep searching for wisdom. Valuable treasure awaits! Like this Etruscan urn shard. Ah! Hopefully that wasn't too valuable. Well, I will see you next time on our next adventure. I really hope we have some Etruscan glue.
I want to be rich. I want to be cool.
I want to be pretty.
I want to be successful.
I want to be cool. I want to be powerful.
I want to be rich.
I want to be popular.
I want to be clever.
I want to be successful. I want to be pure.
I want to be heartbroken.
I want to be merciful.
I want to be humble.
I want to be hungry.
I want to be gentle.
I want to be a peacemaker.
I want to be persecuted.
Just be.
Life can be unpredictable, full of change, some good, some not so good, and some complicated. But one thing is constant. One thing never changes.
When I was a freshman in high school, my dad's business fell apart. The whole country at the time was facing financial challenges, and eventually my dad's business lost everything. Now, as a 13-year-old, I didn't pay much attention to my dad's work, but it didn't take long for me to notice that things were changing in my family. We moved several times over the next couple of years, and each time we definitely downgraded. No more eating out at restaurants, and Christmas and birthdays, they looked a lot different. I mean, there were far fewer presents, and the stuff we got just wasn't nearly as nice as it used to be. Now, up to that point, my dad's business had done pretty well, and I was used to getting what I wanted when I wanted it. I guess you could say that I was spoiled, right? I remember asking my mom at one point, why can't things go back to the way they were before? When my dad's business failed, it felt like life as I knew it fell apart. Now, looking back, I realized some good things came from that time. I was definitely less spoiled after that. I became more content with what I had and less materialistic. All I knew was before my dad lost his business, we had money. And afterwards, we didn't. And in the middle was a thing that I did not like at all, and it was called change. And that, my friends, is what we're talking about in this series, change. As a high schooler, you're used to change, right? You change classes all the time. You probably have different teachers this year than you did last year or last semester. You see people graduate every year, and you see new freshmen show up every year. You've seen your body change. Your friend groups have probably changed. Your view on certain things have changed. And let's be honest, these things are true when it comes to change. That some change, man, it's awesome. When the change is something you want, you like it. If you ride the bench on your team, and then your coach decides to move you up to the starting lineup, man, that's a change we all like, right? If you've been single for a while and the girl that you're interested in finally decides to go out with you, that's a change you can approve of. Am I right or am I right? If you change hairstyles, and I do a lot, and you love the end result, that's a change you can get behind. If my dad's company had taken off and made more money when I was a freshman in high school, that would have been a change that I supported. But see, it doesn't always work like that. Not all change feels like good change. See, some change is just awful. When the change is difficult, like you don't like it. When a close friend moves away or switches schools, that's no fun. When you go through a breakup, that's not a cool change. When your family breaks apart, it's hard to embrace that kind of change. When you change hairstyles and it doesn't work out, that's nobody's favorite kind of change, all right? Trust me, take it from me. Some change is just bad news. Now, how could anyone like that kind of change? It's uncomfortable. Well, like it or not, change happens. Change is inevitable for all of us. It's simply a part of life, especially for you in high school. There's no guarantee that the way things were before will stay as the way things are. In fact, you can guarantee the opposite. The ways things were before will never stay the same as the way things are. And in between, yep, change happens. And whether you like it, you love it, you hate it, or you feel numb about it, it's a reality. You can't escape it, I can't escape it, we can't numb it, we cannot make change go away. Now, last, when it comes to change, everybody is affected. Let me give you an example. A big life-altering change is if your parents get divorced, right? Obviously, that's a big change for them, but it affects you too, like in a major way. The same is true if a teacher or coach switches schools. If a friend moves away, that's a huge change for them, but there's a ripple effect. It has an impact on more than just them. Now, when the after is different than the before, it has a way of affecting everyone, not just the people who are directly involved. Now, as uncomfortable as change is, here's the good news, okay? We're going to talk about something today that has the potential to be a game changer for us when it comes to the way that you and I view change. Now, people have been struggling with how to handle change forever and ever. I mean, when you open the pages of the Bible and read from the writers God used to tell his story, you'll see that they too struggled with the idea of change. They went through a lot of the same stuff that we all go through. Loss, broken relationships, heartbreak, uncertainty, insecurity, and so much more. And many of them wrestled with the question of how could they trust God when their lives seemed to be a constant series of unwanted and unexpected changes. See, that sounds familiar for us, right? But over and over again, the writers in the Bible who were dealing with so much change kept coming back to the same truth. And while many of them had a lot of helpful things to say about dealing with change, we're going to look at what the author of the book of Hebrews said. Now, Hebrews is a letter written to Christians who were learning how to follow Jesus and their Jewish way of living in the world. Now, this is important to know because a lot of people think this letter was written to Jewish Christians living in Jerusalem who were facing persecution, which means they were treated with hostility and threatened to be killed for their religious beliefs. In fact, the persecution was so bad, some of the Jewish Christians were thinking of converting back to the Jewish religion so they wouldn't be persecuted. That makes sense, right? And because of that, much of the book is focused on who Jesus is. Why? No matter how bad things get, following him was not just a good idea, but it was the best idea. And we're going to pick up in the last chapter where the author is wrapping up their letter with this incredible offer of hope to those reading, even with all the change that they were facing. And the author says this: Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. To put it even more plainly, Jesus never changes. He's always the same. However he was before, loving, kind, cheering for you, just, generous, that's how he's going to be after. And in a world marked by constant change, good change, bad change, I think that is absolutely great news. Because that means God doesn't change. Even if everything around you and I changes. It means when everything around us feels unstable, Jesus isn't. When everything around us feels inconsistent, Jesus isn't. When everyone around us seems different or like they can't understand us, Jesus does. And why is that so important? Well, let me explain it to you this way. Have you ever seen a huge tree? Maybe you have one in your backyard right now, or you've seen one at a park or on TV. I'm talking about one of those big, sturdy trees with tons of branches and big old bulky leaves. What is it that keeps that tree in the ground? That tree is secured into the ground and holds steady in its place because of its roots. So every season when the weather changes, when the wind blows, when the ice comes, the rain falls, the sun beams down, the fog covers, the drought hits, that tree is not moved. With all that change happening around it, it would be easy to think that tree would just fall down, give up. but it doesn't. It's rooted in place, no matter what change happens around it. And that's what an unchanging God does for us. He keeps you and I rooted, stable. When we're focused on him, the one who never changes, we're able to stay steady and secure like a tree that's unshakable and unbreakable when everything around us feels unsteady and insecure. God doesn't change when everything else does. Because listen, everything changes, but some things never change, and that's God. When we are rooted in God and are experiencing change, it does not mean that we are all of a sudden happy with every difficult circumstance that change can bring. Instead, it looks like knowing truth, that God's commitment to you never changes, and experiencing disappointment or difficulty at the same time. We can know God's love and purpose and presence doesn't change, and that he can use change, even the bad change, for good, because he is always faithful, and that never, ever changes. No matter what happens in our life, no matter what change we are facing, we can count on the one who never changes. We can be rooted in God. When nothing else feels stable, God is. When we have trust in a God that never changes, whatever difficulty change brings, there is a peace we can experience anyway. And here's a very simple phrase that I'd love for you to remember. God doesn't change, even if. God doesn't change, even if. He's the solid, unmovable ground on which we can root our lives. And that's why no matter what change is happening around us, we can remain secure when our eyes are fixed on him. It was true back then when the writer of Hebrews said it, and it is absolutely still true today. But what does that mean for you? What does that mean for you and I? Well, it means even if things are unpredictable or out of your control, God's ability to hold the whole world together never changes. Even if things will never be the same because of death, permanent injury, chronic health issues, God's availability to hear your prayers, it never changes. Even if what lies ahead is exciting because you made the team, because you crushed the audition, because you took the driver's test, God's amount of love for you never changes. Even if what lies ahead is new territory, transitioning schools, graduating, starting a new job, God's promise to be with you through it all, it never ever changes. Even if what lies ahead of you is scary, God's reliability to stay by you, it never ever changes. And on top of all that, you can keep in mind that one of the things about God that never changes is his love for you. Absolutely no matter what change you are facing, he will always love you. He will always care for you. He's with you when things are steady and good, and he's with you when things change and everything in between. So the next time you experience change in your life, and you most certainly will, you don't have to be uprooted by insecurity, fear, frustration. Instead, you can remain steady and stable by staying rooted in an unchanging God. And to help you do that, I want you to try just one thing, okay? I want you to remember a time that God was faithful to you in the past. I want you to remember a time that you felt God's love in your life. I want you to remember a time you saw God's goodness. You know, maybe it was coming to this church and finding your small group. Maybe it was at a camp. Maybe it was when, your mom was really sick and a whole bunch of people helped by making your family meals and helping you out in a million little ways. Maybe it was when your dad lost his job, and even though it was really scary, you grew closer together as a family. Look, remember those things in your life. Write a few of them down. And then remember that the same God who was there when things happen is the same God who is with you now. If God was faithful or committed to you in that circumstance or that season of your life before, then you can stay rooted in the belief that he will be faithful to you afterwards again. Now, for those of you who aren't sure what you believe about God or don't know if you've seen him to be faithful in your life, that's okay. Or for those of you who are in the middle of some difficult change where it's really hard to even imagine God being faithful to you in the middle of it, that's okay too. All of us have been there at some point. Just think about a time in your life, something really good happened. Write that down and remember it. Or ask your small group leader to share a story like that from their own life. I know they all have plenty of examples of how God has come through for them before. So you can use those stories as a starting point to consider the fact that God might be working in and around your life as well. See, wouldn't it be nice to have something unchangeable that you can focus on and trust? even when everything around you changes? Wouldn't it give you some confidence knowing that no matter how unstable things feel in your life, you have an unshakable rock who always loves you and never changes? God doesn't change even if. And that's an incredible thing to remember. He was the same before, and he'll be the same after. So as we head out, I want you to remember, this is one of the reasons why we meet together in small group. We want to encourage each other to remember the things that are true about God when nothing else feels secure. So use your group time. Use it to encourage each other, to remember the things about God that never, ever change.